the 4th, and may the 4th be with you. This is Lancaster Woodturners Weekly Coffee Hour, number 150 as it happens. Welcome aboard, all of you. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Lancaster after a few days of heavy rain, which we've really needed. I actually went yesterday to a beautiful wildflower garden down in Delaware in the pouring rain, but it was really quite beautiful. Announcements on open shop at Lancaster is not this Saturday, but next Saturday, the 13th. Saturday the 13th is also the date of the auction in Mannheim, up in Mannheim. The Barry McFarland, the guy who made baseball bat blanks for Louisville Sluggers for years and years and years, is retiring and selling everything. He's selling the tools, he's selling the sawmills, he's selling the logging equipment, he's selling the front end, the little bobcat, and he's selling all the slabs and all the cherry wood, because when you're logging ash, you get a lot of cherry and walnut in these forests as well. And that's all day Saturday at 2770 Pinch Road in Mannheim, PA. And if you want to find out more, it's the Hess Auction Group. So that's competing with our Lancaster Club Open Shop a week from Saturday. The next demo in June will be Angelo demonstrating his magic boxes, the ball and vase trick, which is a real exercise in precision turning. He and I made a video about it a few years ago, and he's going to show some excerpts from that, as well as demo some of the key techniques. And let's see, and then the July meeting for Lancaster, which will, what date did we agree, Barry? I think the 11th or the 12th, the 11th. It's going to be the second Tuesday, because the first Tuesday is July the 4th weekend. And it'll be at the town park over in Mannheim that we were in last year for our picnic. So, and I will not be taking the video cart this year. So if you want to go to the picnic, you got to go live, no video. And I hope we will have starring Barry at the grill. That's what we had last year. He did a great job grilling up, and we had fun. Plus, a guy brought a whole truckload of yew wood that we got to pick over, which was very fun. Good stuff. Anybody else with announcements? Randy, what's next coming up with Susquehanna?
Bill Gray will be talking about segmenting, open segmenting pieces and how he creates them.
The open segmenting is where there's some segments are not there and there's old voids in the wood, right?
Yes. And I must also add that Worldwide Woodturners had several months ago now a gentleman who showed exactly how he does that, how he lays out, makes the segments, how he decides what length they are, how he actually uses graph paper and actually designs the outline of the piece. And it was very informative. And I hope Bill's will be just as informative. So, and that will be on Zoom as well as in person.
Okay. Mike Peace, the answer is yes for your slideshow. I just saw your text. I learned the other day that the AAW does plan to offer an online component for the Louisville Symposium. They're delaying the announcement of it because they want to sucker everybody into paying full boat and going in person that they can possibly get there. But sometime before the symposium, and I don't know, I thought this week, maybe next, they're going to announce the online remote package, which will feature, they'll have 2 demo rooms, 2 or 3, I'm not sure, fully loaded with cameras and mics. So they'll be broadcasting the demos, and taking a leaf out of our experiment last year at the Mid-Atlantic, they're going to have a roving camera interviewing people at the going through the instant gallery and interviewing people in the hallway and touring the trade show. So they're going to try and make a good online experience out of it. Now, I'm going to support that because I don't want to go to Louisville, and I hope enough other people do to persuade them that it's a thing they need to do every year. Anybody else on any of that?
You might as well get with the program. That's what I say.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a lot of clubs waffle with this. It's a lot of trouble to do the videos and to run the show, but on the other hand, it makes attendance at the meeting possible, not only for people that don't live nearby, but we got old guys who really don't drive at night, and they like to come to the meetings. We got some guys on screen here who don't show up at meetings anymore, but they never fail to be there on video. I'm looking at you, Jack Cap, just just for one. So,
but having said that, John, we enjoyed Bob Gockenauer's visit last week. Tuesday.
I guess that's part of the point. Bob is a retired professional turner. We haven't seen him at a meeting probably in a year, but he showed up with a beautiful little burl bowl. So there you go. So, but he didn't drive himself either. Somebody else brought him. So there you go. I have some. I'm going to talk about these tools a little bit, but I don't want to keep talking right now. I want to hand the mic over to somebody else. So I see Barry on here, and I see Mike. Anybody else going to raise their hand to show us stuff this morning? Or are we going to have to babble our way through the hour? Now's your chance. Especially you guys who haven't shown us work or are new here to this. We'd love to see what you do. And we're totally good at with it if you're a beginner. We'll be nice to you. And if you're an expert, we might be mean to you. Say, why don't you do it that way? Okay. So, Barry, what do you got today?
Yeah, I have a kind of like last week, I had a question. This week, I have a new question. And that is, I'm making lathe stands for the 3 smaller lathes that are club. And I want to have them all be at the same height, same spindle height. And my question is this: what do you all use individually for your spindle height for turning, and how tall are you? My plan is to make them to probably the upper 85th or 90th percentile of users, and then use booster pads for shorter users to avoid having to get into a complicated mechanical scheme for raising and lowering the lathe. And I made up a, if you can, I knew it.
Yeah.
I gotta reverse my camera here.
No, we saw it. It worked fine. Hold it back up again.
Well, it's backward. Here it's the right way. If people could send an email to me just simply stating, well, they can certainly send a greeting, but all I really need is how tall they are, and if they can take a second to go out to their shop and measure from the floor to the center of their spindle.
What? Well, I learned the rule. You want the spindle height to be the same height as your elbow when you stand up.
Yeah, we got different height people have different height elbows.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be accommodating the tallest people, the very tallest people, at the cost of somebody having to stand on a 6-inch platform. We are getting female members now, and they are shorter than most men. And I just want to make sure we can accommodate the most people with the least inconvenience.
Well, here's the other dimension to that. I used to be 5'9", but I'm 5'7". Old guys shrink.
Barry, there's another question. Do we have to have all the lathes exactly the same height? Particularly the 2 mini lathes, they can be different height for different people, can't they?
Well, I didn't want to get into designating lower or higher. So that basically, if somebody has something to turn, they can turn it on any of the 3 or 4, actually counting the Powermatic lathes that are available. And I did originally size everything based on the height of the Powermatic, so that they'd all have the same spindle height as the Powermatic. But that is up on some feet and is actually too high for me. I'd have to stand on a 2-inch platform. And I've already made platforms, but I've only made 3 total platforms. And if somebody needs more than 1 platform there, why, we're going to have to assign tall person here, short person here.
Well,
I can tell you that at 6 foot.
Hey, this is Ken Vasco, Nittany Valley Turners. We do a lot of training. We do 2 training sessions a week or a month rather. And we have about 5 or 6 jet lathes. We put them all at a little bit different heights. And what we do is we use the boxes because you just can't accommodate everybody. It just doesn't work. So we kind of say, well, the taller people will go to those ones and the shorter people will go to those ones. And it usually works out. We don't have any troubles. Usually there's only one person that uses the box.
Do you find, Ken, that I'm afraid of stepping back from the lathe in an absent-minded moment and falling off the box and tripping?
Yeah, we're concerned about that too, but the box is probably about 3 by 4. So it's a pretty good sized box that they stand on.
That'd
And
help.
we haven't had too much trouble right now. Like I said, they're varied heights, so we haven't had too much trouble.
All you engineering guys, here's an opportunity for a manufacturing. Why not hydraulic lifts like they have for desks, the standing desks or the sitting desk?
The scissors. Barry, just as an aside, I'm 6'2", and that Powermatic is at the right height for me. So anything lower than that Powermatic is going to be more average.
Well,
You
I
drop
found the Powermatic way too high for me.
Yeah, it was hugely too high for John. So
Thomas Skirdo Davis he had mentioned to me that he felt the Powermatic was too low for him. And I measured it and it's 45.5 inches. And I'm just not going to make a lathe even that tall. I was going to make these for 44.5. Mine at home is 42.5. I'm 5'8". Randy just texted me that he's 5'8", and his is 42. I think he put a note on the chat there.
I made mine at 42 when I used to be 5'8".
and Thomas makes me feel short sometimes.
Could you make a platform where you actually use wedges with steps in it so that you could change your wedge, the platform height, just by moving the wedges in and out, and just have little dips in them so they lock underneath? Would that work?
It would work, but it's no trouble.
That's one of many mechanical contrivances I had thought of, but it's just not stable. When you say just wedges, you have to say just wedges plus bolts for after they're in there, because the vibrations, even with steps on the wedges, if you get a nice, if you're turning a spindle and it's already balanced, you're home free. But if you got any wobble in a bowl or whatever from a piece of raw wood, the imbalance, all of a sudden your wedges are falling out and you got an unsafe condition on your hand, because if all that's holding it is wedges, it's not being held. There has to be a mechanical connection there. And I had come up with a screw mechanism, but it becomes, again, the cost of the stand to implement it. And I just couldn't see where it was worth it. It's easier to go ahead and stack blocks under the feet of to make it taller, to put blocks under the feet of the stands.
Could you use, scissor jacks and just a little crank that you bolt your scissor jack to the bottom of your stand, and then just have a crank where you can adjust the height that way?
We'll still be playing it.
Well, I'm thinking more than one scissor jack. So if you put it on 4 corners, you could adjust it to even unlevel floors. I'm just thinking out of the box here. That's all.
Yeah.
Barry's a safety issue with the platform. Why don't you do just the opposite? Why don't you make your stands low and make adjustable platforms, or just different size platforms that you can slide underneath the base of the lathe and then clamp them down with quick clamps?
Well, I guess as long as the operator would know to lift the narrow end and get both those feet secured, and he or she would need an assistant to lift it up safely and put the blocks under it. They couldn't just be blocks; it'd have to be, well, sizable blocks to make sure it wouldn't vibrate off them. Now I have already made 3 platforms that are 2 inches thick, but they were meant to be 1 platform per lathe. So, and they are 2 by 4 foot. So yeah, you can step back and step off it, but I would go ahead and admonish just to keep it close enough to the wall that people just by muscle memory or whatever know not to step back because you're going to be hitting the wall without getting into interfering with your elbow on turning.
Barry, the solution there might be to put a tool rack on the back edge of that platform or something like that, so that when you step back, you notice that something's stopping you. Like me and my lathe, you can see it right there. If you step back, I'm going to hit my tool rack. So
Well, yeah, but that's your shop. There's anywhere you step in your shop, you're going to hit something.
Thanks,
Well,
John.
one thing you could consider as well, if you're doing this for training, we do a training sessions. We have 6 lathes. We set them at a couple of them are set at different heights. And one of the training opportunities is to tell people that the optimum height is what's comfortable for you and not, at your elbow. And we've got different height lathes, so just try them. So if you got some people there for the day, let them try different heights, and then they learn that if they get their own lathe, how to set it up for them. So I wouldn't over-engineer having extra platforms because of the safety issues. Just have a couple different lathes and just explain it to them.
I guess I kind of agree with Bert on this.
Can I throw in a comment?
Yeah.
We've had 6 lathes for the 20-odd years that I've been a member of our guild, and we turn on everything from just putting them on tabletops to, and I've just texted our past president because he bought, and I guess he put them through the budget individually so he didn't have to go to the membership for approval. He bought generic stands and put casters on them. So the biggest problem we were running into was manhandling the lathes every meeting. In your case, you don't have to get rid of them and put them in a closet, etc., which is phenomenal. But I just texted Keith to see if he paid any attention to it and what the brand of those things was, because they are just a few bolts to put them together and bingo, the job is done. If I were to attack this, I wouldn't worry about more than an inch either way. And then it could be just something that slid under the lathe on the existing platform, a block to raise it and lower it. Obviously, you take the block out, or maybe you have a block that's 2 inches thick and a block that's 1 inch thick. I wouldn't overthink it. That was my thought.
And another idea might be to stack platforms. If you have, for example, 2 platforms that you can stack and then connect them with wooden pins or something like that, so that they don't move against each other. We once did a similar thing when we offered wood turning for children. We had to bring them to the right height to stand at the lathe. So I went to printing shops and asked them for pallets that they normally get when they buy paper. It's stacked on wooden pallets and they don't need them anymore after that. So I got the pallets, added some extra boards on the pallets, and then we had 1 pallet or 2 pallets to get the children on the right height. And the pallets were big enough so that nobody stepped off the pallet when going back. Of course, the children had to get onto the pallet and off, so they had to be careful there. But once they were on there, the platform was big enough, so there was no danger. And an adult was standing next to them anyway, watching. So that might be an idea to stack platforms if you have 2 that you can combine.
I think we're kind of
the platforms are currently 2 feet. They're 2 foot by 4 foot. To make them bigger, my concern would not be to make them longer, but to make them wider. So that basically, if we put 2 of them together, you'd have 4 foot square. And that would just mean making a couple more pallets. And they are made from this pink insulation board you put in walls that comes in 2 inch, 1.5 inch thickness. And it's basically that insulation foam that's been framed up It's like a truss box with 1/4-inch plywood on the outside on both faces, and the foam filling the core and truss elements so that it will bear a 200-pound or 250-pound person's foot without any yield. So
And
you
that
could
makes,
have 4-foot by 4-foot platforms. It's just that the foam is $30 for a sheet, and I was just concerned about running the budget up too high, but
Yeah.
I can make more foam platforms so the danger of stepping off wouldn't be an issue.
Can I weigh in?
yeah, we'd like you to. Go ahead, Sarah.
So I've used platforms before, and I would agree that a stacking platform is probably the easiest way to get a correct height. I've seen that used. I've used that. It's been great. I would just caution you for making it too large, because when turning's going on, there's a lot of people that come up and gather around the lathe, and so now it's a tripping hazard. So you're concerned about somebody stepping off and falling. I'm less concerned about that, because you need to have some situational awareness when you're the one turning. The problem is going to be others that are watching are going to trip over the platform, and they might bump into somebody that is turning, or bump into somebody else that might bump into them. That would be my concern with making the platform too large, that it gets in the way of those that are trying to observe the turning.
I quite agree with Sarah there.
Yep.
I agree with you, Sarah.
Well, in a training situation, you really normally only have one trainer and one student. So it's really not a concern if you're just doing it for training. If you're doing it for demo purposes, I agree with you.
But
In
even
We're
in
in
our-
the atmosphere of an open shop where it's, it's not training, it's neither one nor the other. It's let's all go fool around in the shop.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how many people do you have walking around, Barry, when you in your
15,
training
probably.
sessions?
15, 18.
So it can.
I think I'm kind of thinking we've kind of hit the end of this, and I'd like to give some other people the floor for some other topics, if that's okay with you guys. It's a good discussion, and we can come back to it another time, but I'd like Barry's going to need to chew on what we talked about today. So is that okay with everybody?
Okay.
Okay. Sarah, are you work as well, or did you have your hand up to comment on this?
I do have something to show this
Sarah?
week. Can you hear me? I made a stool.
Good for you.
So I have some turned legs. I turned the legs kind of quick. We were running out of time. But yeah, so this is just a project I was able.
At a time? Were you in a class?
Just I don't have all the tools necessary to make it. And so I was at a friend's shop and just trying to get everything together. I just want to, I'm going to drop it on my head. I don't have all the carving tools to do the seat. So I was trying to spend more time working on this than actually turning the legs, but.
So you carved the seat, did you?
Yeah.
Very nice work.
Very nice, sir.
Is that seat level, or is there some slope to it?
It's level.
Uh-huh. Very nice.
Yeah, for stools, we keep the seats level. If it was a chair, then there's be some slope to that.
And how many of those do you plan to make, and what are they for?
So this was just a prototype. I'd need to make some for my kitchen island. So I'll be making 4 of those that are a little bit taller. So this was just, again, a prototype to get that process down.
Great.
What kind of woods did you use?
So the seat is pine, and then the legs are maple.
It looks like it's good you have the extension on that DR14.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be utilizing that.
Very nice work, Sarah. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to throw the ball to Mike. He's got a slideshow.
Okay,
Great.
let me start the show. I love boxes. Somebody said boxes are the high art of wood turning. So I've turned a variety. It's one of my favorite topics. So here's a little slideshow. That's a kitchen canister. That's probably 8 inches tall.
Now, is that bead on the lid or the body?
Normally I put, I don't remember which one it was. Normally I put beads on the lid. That's Richard Raffin's suggestion. Little pill boxes. That's Bradford pear with tiger wood. I like threaded boxes.
Oh, pause right here, can you?
Yeah, let me try. Okay.
Pause and go back to those threaded things.
Okay. There may be more coming up.
Well, we'll talk about that. I want to ask you about them though.
Okay.
Did you chase those threads by hand, or did you use that jig that we worked on a couple of years ago?
By looking at these, it's hard for me to tell. I love hand thread chasing on boxes that are closer to 2 inches or smaller. If it's a larger acorn box where I use a 10 thread per inch for a stronger thread more appropriate to the size, I always use a jig.
And that's the jig that we published in the journal about 5 years.
Yeah, no, I ditched that thing pretty quick. Despite our best efforts, it's very difficult to use coarse rod and come up with your own way of mounting a chuck on it and having it run true unless you do some machining. And our goal was to buy everything off the shelf, being able to cobble it together without any metal lathe work. And it turns out that's just very difficult.
I found the same thing. I made the jig and I could never get it quite to work right. And that was another one of my failed router experiments.
Well, I apologize for that article to anybody that tried to make one.
Is there any place that the AAW records that decision was pointed out?
No, I don't think they have a process for that.
I was just thinking, because there might be other people that are going at it thinking this is the greatest thing, and then oops.
Well, there aren't a lot of people that have been successful in making threading jigs that have managed to do that. And a lot of it's a question of your engineering skill and ability and understanding what registration and centering and running true is, because there are adjustments that you can make by just changing the nut, putting a little dab of CA maybe on the back of a washer. The problem is most of us don't have that ability.
I found alignment to be the issue. I could never get it aligned.
That can be a challenge too.
Yeah. Oh, anyway,
this is Bradford pear.
These are great. Are these all yours?
These are all mine, yes.
You made all these yourself?
Yes.
These are a great slideshow.
That's using a jig. I think that's ash, spalted maple, and madrone. Spalted maple.
Was one of those earlier
Ash.
ones a catalpa?
No.
Okay.
That's ash dyed with liming wax. Ash. And that lid, that beads on the lid. A beads of courage box with some texturing. That's Bacote. That's threaded. I think that's Red Heart inset. Bradford pear again. One of my favorites.
For you, as I use magnets because I can't make the threads.
Well, yeah, practice makes perfect.
That's true with magnets as well, actually.
Yeah. This is cherry.
I like that.
I don't remember what that one was. This is a spalted maple. Little clam box. This is ambrosia maple that's been stained by ambrosia beetle. This one is a little ginger box of Bradford pear with some pyrography. These are some of my very first boxes. That's cherry. Bradford pear with ebony finial. Walnut.
Oh, nice detail.
Those are some of my very early boxes. I made this in a class at Airmont with Beth Ireland at Padlock. This is cherry, maple.
Now, can you stop it on that one and go back from this one to the one before? As a
This one?
conversation. Yeah, that one there.
Yeah, that's just beautifully figured colored maple. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't think it's spalting, but it might. Yeah, there's a little bit of spalting. You can see that black zone line, but it was just beautiful wood.
Well, the point I want to raise here is when I want to concentrate on the form of the box, I want a featureless wood. So I use a lot of pear wood for that. And when the wood has high figure, then I want to see the figure, and I don't want to fight with the shape of the box. And there's a delicate balance in there, which you've achieved in this, but I think it's a thing worth thinking about if you're a box maker.
You know, I've never given that much thought in terms of the style or shape of the box. I always think about it when it comes to texturing, because as you say, texturing I find definitely fights with some woods. The form, I guess I've never given that a great deal of thought.
Okay. Well, you seem to hit it pretty well by not thinking about it.
Osage orange. One of the few woods, domestic woods that threads. That's hickory. That's red heart.
We missed red heart and skipped by.
Pedestal. Okay. Let's stop share.
Okay. Great on the show, Mike. Any comments and questions for Mike on boxes?
Beautiful.
So do you sell online or do you go to shows? How do you handle all your boxes?
I generally put them in a box. I can't give them away as fast. This stuff just backs up on me. I give away a lot of stuff to volunteers that I work with at church or with AARP tax aid program, of which I'm active in. I have a lot of volunteers to give things away there. And what I did when I started, and I know this seems kind of over analytical, but I was a data analyst or a business analyst before I retired. I started a spreadsheet, and I have a spreadsheet that lists everything I've given away by line item, the date, what it was, who it was for, and why. And then I have a separate sheet in there just for family. And I'm up to over 500 for non-family members and 250 for family members.
What do you do with that information? Do you ever look at it and say, oh, I can't get it?
I filter it with Excel or Google Sheets. I use the filter feature where I can go to a column, for example, like a person, and look at all the list and just put a check mark, a tick box by the person I want to filter on, and then all I will get is those rows. So for a family member, I can see, oh, I've given this person for Christmas, I gave him a pin, and before that I gave him a birdhouse ornament. Before that I gave him a little box, so I don't repeat.
Well, I
have a lot of folks that are repeaters, so I find it helpful for that.
What I do about that is I phone up my kids and I say, did I give you a pie lifter yet with a turned handle on it? Did I give you an ice cream scoop yet? If I didn't, I got one for you.
Well, that gives you an opportunity to talk to them, which is.
Hey, Mike, how many years of this does this collection represent for you?
I started in 2007, and there were a few boxes in there that I mentioned were my early boxes. They were done the first year.
And the second question is, if you'd be willing to share the format of that. I hated spreadsheets when I worked as a manager because I never quite understood them. I had my assistant do it. But if you could share that, that's exactly what I want to do, because I'm like going, who got that box? I don't have it anymore. And there's no way to do it. Is there any way you can just share the form you use, or is that not possible?
Well, I think I pretty well said it. I have a column for a date, a column for the person, the recipient, a column for the description and the column for the occasion.
Oh, okay.
It's that simple.
All right. I'll have my wife make them. She's better at spreadsheets than I am. I need a turn. I don't want to be working on spreadsheets.
There's no work to it. I guess experience helps, but if you've done it a lot, it's just, there's no thinking to it. It's just click, click.
Yeah. Okay.
How much time do you spend in the shop now, Mike?
Not nearly as much as I do at the computer, but I try to get in there every day, even if it's only to clean up, rearrange, add another coat of Minwax antique oil. I try to go down there for something every day.
And you still post a new video every week?
Yes. I'm almost up to 675.
Well, Mike, I always enjoy your videos. You're one of my favorite.
You've really made a mark with all your videos. They're really terrific.
Thank you.
The challenge with them is it takes more time when you're turning, and it takes a lot of time to edit. At least that's my experience. Maybe
like I say, I spend more time on the computer than I do in my shop. Not only editing, but also the upload, post-production processes, responding to comments and email.
Yeah.
What do you use to edit?
I use Vegas Studio because that is what the Gwinnett woodworkers standardized on early on when I first started editing. There may be others are better, but I've gotten used to it, so it's probably not worth me changing.
Is that one still supported? Do they still upgrade that one? I thought.
Oh yeah, they come up with a new version about every 18 months or 2 years at least.
Wow. Okay.
It used to be Sony Vegas. Now it's just Vegas.
Yeah.
After a detour into DaVinci Resolve, I'm back to iMovie. I just use iMovie for everything. Dawn, you got something today?
Yeah, I see not many people got hands up, so I thought I'd just show you something that I made. There we are. Any ideas?
What is it?
What is it?
Acorns.
The string comes up, the string comes down, but watch the right-hand side.
Why would one would one want to do that now? What is it?
It's a Chinese puzzle.
Ah.
How do the one on the right not come when I pull that one, but when I pull that one comes up.
Hollow tube with loops inside it, huh?
It's all with loops of string inside, yeah.
You're so clever, Don. That's great.
Just something I made for the great granddaughters. She wanted something for her birthday, so I made that. I thought I'd just show it.
Very nice. Okay, I'm going to show you, I'm going to take a minute here and show you these Boxmaster tools in a little better view. Bowman, spotlight me if you would, just to boot Don and bring it up. Oh, he's gone away too. I think we got some pretty bad bandwidth issues today. If you can see this, anyhow, these are the Boxmaster tools. They're negative rake scrapers, which means the negative rake is about a 25-degree grind on top. I'm going to have to do that myself. Hang on a second. Spotlight for everyone. There we go. So it has a bevel on top, that's the negative rake, and it has a clearance bevel on the bottom. So the burr then is on the top edge here. So the grind, you want to have about 90 degrees between those two surfaces. And I often grind this bottom heel off as well, so that it works in a small box without banging up on the side of the box. And what I find is I can really control the coarseness of the burr by the coarseness of the grinding wheel I'm using. And I followed the instructions on the Boxmaster site, and I made a platform like this for my grinder. This is the, where can I put it so you can see it? There. It's just a regular grinder platform, but with a block on top of it, so that I can I can sharpen the tool bevel down rather than bevel up. So I'm just kind of, so when I'm sharpening it, I'm sharpening this bottom surface like this. I turn the tool over and the wheel's coming down on it. So that raises a very nice burr up here very quickly without removing hardly any metal. Here's a tool I've had for a few years. It's 2 inches shorter than a new one, because I didn't know about the platform. I know I'm working. Yeah, there you go. It's, you know, so I've ground 2 inches of expensive M2 steel off of this one, by not using the upside down platform grind. But I find the upside down grind is really the way to go with these things. The tools are very easy to modify. So, you know, you can see here on this, they come with a little bit of a round here, and I want that to go away so I can just, you know, so it doesn't interfere with the side of them, whatever I'm doing. I also made the handles for them. They sell handles. I made handles, put them in there. They're all double-ended tools, but in practice, I find I just use tool because they don't kick. They make a very clean shaving. They work great, especially in exotic woods and cocobolo. I've been turning a lot of cocobolo, and they're just terrific little tools. They don't make dust. They make a shaving. You can see the bevel, what the bevel looks like there.
Hey, John, didn't somebody on one of these the other year say he always uses the back of a grinder to grind this?
That's the same thing. Yeah, Duxbury does that. He grinds on the back of his grinder for the same reason, but you get the same effect if you grind this way. Rather, I'm wanting to raise a bevel here, so I grind like this. The tool is aimed downward on the rest, and the wheel's coming down at it. And I find that works really, really well with these tools. Boxmaster was a guy in Seattle, and he sold it to D-Way, so that's where you get them, is D-Way. And, you know, because they were working out, they made lots of different shapes, and I actually bought several other different shapes, but these are the ones I use all the time. And this one has a roundish nose on that end, and it has a shallower curve on this end. These are great for the inside of a box lid and for cleaning up inside a box after you've hollowed it out with a gouge. I use this one a great deal. I keep this one dead straight here. This is straight across on that end, and this end is really important to me in box making. That's the top of it that you can see there, and that's the bottom of it. The angle between this is the cutting surface, and this is a cutting surface. And the angle between those, for me, has to be under 90 degrees, because I want to be able to go straight in with this side here and pare the inside of a box flange, and I do not want to dig in to wherever it's going. So that and then I want to use this corner in here. With this being just under 90 degrees, I can get into really tight little corners and just clean perfectly the last little bits of wood out of there. And it's just a terrific tool for all of that. I also recently this one, which is this tool, except that it has a rounded end corner here. It doesn't have a sharp corner. So that rounded corner lets me do the inside of a box and have a little rounded inside, not a sharp corner. And it really works really well. And I'm still working with touching up the edges of this so it grinds perfectly and doesn't dig in where I don't want it to. And I find this end of this one, which also it's slightly rounded in this way, and it has slightly rounded corners. I find this to be a very good leveling tool, very good for just flattening out a surface. It takes a lot of material off really pretty fast, especially if I raise the burr on it using a coarse wheel.
John,
yeah,
John, I've got a question for you. You referred to something about the corners and the slightly rounded corners. Is it? I'm not much of a box maker, but the reason I haven't got into it more is because the bottom corner of the box. Is that the one where you have the tool that's sharpened on two sides so that you can get into that corner nicely?
Yeah, that's what this one will do. This will do that inside a box.
So that's a 90 on that corner, or is
This
it
one,
more than?
I feel like it just under 90.
Can I make a comment about the bottom of a box? Richard Raffin's got a great book on, it's out of print now, Turning Boxes. And he suggests that in most instances, the bottom of the box should be rounded because number one, it's easier to go in there with a rounded scraper and get that profile. Secondly, it's easier to sand. Thirdly, it's easier to reach into a box and retrieve the contents if it's rounded. The only time, or one of the times you might not, certainly, is if you're making a pencil pot. But other than that, rounded is better, I think.
And what radius are you using on the bottom round?
I don't know if it makes a whole lot of difference. Whatever you like.
Well, I mean, after a while, if you got a if you got a 2-inch diameter box, you can't make a 2-inch diameter radius. You have to have like a quarter or.
Yeah, just experiment to what works for you.
You do it by eye, really. Yeah. But what I find is, I make a lot of little flat boxes, Mike, because for carrying your Tic Tacs or your meds or your supplements. Yeah, so I want this just a little about 1/8 of an inch radius on this one, and that's just perfect for inside corner of one of those boxes. And then I make the bottom flat because I'm trying to make the box thin so it can be carried in your pocket or your purse, and not be intrusive. It's too big. So I'm going to kill it in the spotlight.
Hey, John, I have a question.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, David, go ahead.
I was looking at the D-Way site while you were talking here, and there's about 13 different negative rake scrapers there for sale. And is there one that you would recommend as a starting point?
Yeah, this one here. Square on one end and with the angle on the other for the side angle. Just like I just dropped my keyboard on the floor.
John, I've got a picture I can share with two different box scrapers. Can I do that? Can y'all see that?
Yeah, can you make it bigger?
Okay, so the one on the left is a negative scraper, somewhat similar to John's. It's not as extreme of less than 90 degrees. The one on the left is closer to something that Cindy Drozda uses. The one on the right is a store-bought Robert Sorby. They're pretty much used for the same purpose of coming down the inside of a box to have a parallel shoulders, just one. And I find that I tend to go back a lot of times with the Robert Sorby, especially if I'm going deeper, I think, or I want to come along the bottom and hollow a little bit more. But the one on the left is a little bit more refined if I need a lighter touch, but they're both good.
That's exactly right. Sorby has sold tools like that for years, and I have those, but I like these Boxmasters better.
John, can I make a quick suggestion?
Yeah.
I've been experimenting. I make the traditional angle thing out of a plexiglass, and then from there went to a very inexpensive digital tractor, and it timed out. But it's got magnets on the bottom, so it goes right onto your tool rest. And this way you can dial in the same identical angle every time and not have to fool with it. These things are $8 and something mail order, and it's digital, and it's 4 places if you wanted it, or two place decimal, 4 digits. But so cheap and so repeatable, I think it would benefit some people. I haven't seen anyone use one like this. I've used it for car suspension, automobile race cars, and they used to have an analog one. I would call it analog, and it swings with a weight under it, and on top is the angles. But you can't beat digital. You can also even get an app for your smartphone that is an inclinometer, if that were today. I see Mike's going to get something. I'm going to turn it over to you guys, but that's just an idea. Thank you, John.
Two quick comments, Carl. Somebody in the chat just posted that I have it backwards, that it wasn't that D-Way bought Boxmaster, it's that Boxmaster bought D-Way. So, and I don't know either of those guys, of the people involved, but that's in the chat someplace. And they also, with the tools, give you a little gauge like the plastic one you have there, Carl, that one straight side sits on the platform, the curved side rests on the wheel, and it gets your angle. And I find that accurate enough, frankly, for my purposes. But I understand.
I agree. It's very accurate and repeatable in itself. It's a simple thing to lay out any degree you want. You just make a, if you have an 8-inch diamond wheel, you write 8-inch radius or 4-inch radius, and then come out at 90 degrees and drop it. You're shaking your head. You understand.
And it works on a bandsaw and it works on a table saw.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Carry on, guys. Thank you.
Okay.
The only problem with the one on the iPhone is with digital, zeroing it is an important issue because you could zero it off level if you're not careful. And then
it's very hard. It's hard to index the iPhone, whereas the thing with the magnet index is pretty good. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, Bert, what do you got today?
Yeah, John, this is a little bit off topic from turning, but for doing, excuse me, connecting my ATEM and stuff to the cameras, I just did a little bit of a modification to my my controls. So I've got my Stream Deck, and I 3D printed a little bracket here to hold it, and I've mounted my little Raspberry Pi. So the Raspberry Pi talks to the Stream Deck, and through an internet connection or an Ethernet cable straight to the ATEM, I can be 30, 40 feet away from the ATEM and all the cameras and stuff, and I can control what the ATEM's putting out to the monitor. And primarily, I use this when I do a demonstration at a shop. I want to be able to control the screen from the lathe. So this sits on my lathe, and I can switch cameras back and forth and other functions that I like picture in picture and stuff right at the lathe. And I don't have to be tied to my ATEM with a whole bunch of wires. I just have one wire going to the ATEM. And even better than that, if your ATEM is plugged onto a local network, then I don't even need this cable, because the little Raspberry Pi is Wi-Fi into a local network, and it'll communicate with the ATEM. So that's for your technical guys that are doing your club demonstrations and stuff like that, where the demonstrator may want to be switching the cameras around a little bit based on what he wants to present. But that's a little bit of technology that I set it up once, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. I just plug it in, turn it on, and it works.
Over the top for me, but I can see how that could be useful. And that leads me to want to ask you guys, how many of you guys belong to clubs that do video or do Zoom technical things like video of demonstrations and the like? Can I see hands?
Well, we've done it, but we don't do that many Zoom meetings anymore. But when I do a presentation or I do something in the shop, if I'm the presenter, I kind of like to be able to have a control, so I don't have to wave at somebody to say switch cameras. I like to be able to just punch a button and show. I usually do a preview of what I'm going to demonstrate in my own shop, so I kind of get a little bit of a script in my mind of how things are going to go. And then when we're at the actual demonstration period, it's easy for me just to switch through cameras. And then somebody else is still doing the production if they want to record it and do assistance. But this was just a little tidbit that made it easier for me. And I know that technology is over and above a lot of people, and it's over and above me. But I got it set up once, and now all I do is plug and play.
Well, I'm gonna go back to what you said a minute ago. How come your club doesn't do Zoom meetings anymore?
Because we don't have the technical support to actually do it. And if you don't have a group of people or a couple of people that are dedicated to doing the technical aspects of it, which means that they probably don't participate in the meeting anymore. And we don't have anybody that wants to do that. And I'm burnt out. I was doing it all, and I just can't do that anymore. So
Yeah, I hit the jackpot in our club. 2 guys stepped up. So
Hey, Bert,
that works.
that's a
really well.
good question. How are you guys, how are other people doing that about keeping technology, which seems great at the time, alive as the people who implemented it step aside?
That's a very, very good question. And we're trying to train more people, but it's a long process because unless they embrace it and dive right into it, it's a steep learning curve until you learn how to plug and play. And then after that, it's easy. But the big thing is when something doesn't work, you need somebody that knows how to troubleshoot it. And it's usually just a bad wire, a bad connection or a cable goes bad. And that, it's like any technology. You need some technical assistants who probably aren't woodturners.
And I think some clubs go over the top, make it very complicated because they have someone that can do that. And when that one person goes out of the picture, they don't have a simple solution that's more easily handled by somebody with less technical skills.
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
Yes. Let me put it to John Ziegler. He's one of the guys who stepped up on our club. John, how come you stepped up? And is it any fun for you?
Well, I did because first of all, I wanted to learn more about the club and the members, and it just seemed like a good way to broaden my horizons, just all the way around. I mean, I'm learning about wood turning and I'm learning more about, we use Zoom when I was working, especially during COVID. And so I knew about Zoom, but I didn't know about ATEM and all that stuff. And I just thought it would be interesting to learn that. So, and it was a good way to meet more people.
So that's one guy who stepped up. I've seen that. Yeah, I agree that I've seen other clubs shut down their setup because they don't have anybody to run it. And I think that's succession is really important if you are running a setup for a club, is to really go out of your way to get some other people involved. And,
one of the comments, John, that I'd make is that you got to be careful in setting up, like the comment was made, it's set up by a geek and then somebody else comes in. And for us, those of us who are not necessarily sort of halfway there and not computer geeks, it's extremely intimidating. So if the setup is made so you're trying to set it up so a non-geek can use it, you'll have more volunteers to use it.
That's the only thing I could add to that, Doug, is I don't think I'm a geek. I mean, maybe I am, but I'm not a technical geek, that's for sure. And John did all the work. So really, I was just following in what John had already set up, and Peter is geekier than I am. And so I've been trying to help Peter learn the technical stuff, but the wiring is pretty straightforward once you understand how it works. And, the learning curve isn't overwhelming.
I'd agree with you, John, with that one. My comment is only going to be that what you have to do is make it so that the people who are afraid of it aren't afraid of it anymore. That's all.
Well, so you're right, and I know we're about to end, but all I can say is wood turning is a hell of a lot more difficult than this technical stuff.
Well,
for some people, for some people,
I don't think our club is unique in having a significant number of retired engineers. I think that's engineering is one of the professions that leads people into wood turning as a retirement hobby, I think. That fell flat. It's after 11 o'clock.
Well, we're here to turn wood, not to be a video TV studio. So yeah, you either split your energy, and I don't know, John, Zig, I don't if I'm focusing on the technology, then I don't get the full benefit of the conversation and the wood turning experience.
Oh, you're not wrong there, Jim. But the only thing is the way our club is set up and arranged, I don't feel like I'm not participating. Anytime I want to speak up at the club, I can speak up. And the fact that I'm sitting behind monitors, I don't have to, I can see the crowd and participate, and it doesn't really take much more time out of my continuing to learn more about turning.
Good, good. I mean,
Yeah.
you're right. I think John had the system set up pretty nice, so it's
Yeah,
not
he did.
sweat. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Peter cleaned it up a lot. The other thing that I've learned is editing the video. You get to see the demo again in great detail, so you really learn a lot.
Right.
So there's a payoff to that as well. And on that, we'll see you all next week.
Have a
Thanks,
good week.
John.
Thank
Have a
you.
good week.
Yeah, big weekend for us over here.
All right.
See you next week.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.